The Star Trek Titan series of novels is a flagship of the Expanded Universe Relaunch Initiative. Basically, it's a hefty collection of novels that tell the stories of all the 24th century characters following the end of Star Trek Nemesis. Under the command of Captain William T Riker, the USS Titan becomes the Federation's flagship. As we've covered in a handful of past videos, the series picks up moments after the credits rolled on Star Trek Nemesis. Riker, Troi, and the Titan have brokered peace in Romulan space after the fall of Shinzon's Insurgency, being catapulted into a collapsing, sentient micro-universe with a refugee crisis, and then even rescued the space jellyfish from encounter at Farpoint from space poachers. For more details on those adventures, check out the 3 previous videos in the series, that's books 1, 2 and 3, they'll be linked down below in the YouTube playlist. Today's installment focuses on the 4th book, Star Trek Titan, The Sword of Damocles, by Geoffrey Thorne. The book's title is an allusion to the anecdote from ancient Syracuse. A sword, precariously hanging over the king's head, represents the ever-present danger faced by people in positions of power. So naturally, this Star Trek novel is a tale of a planet at the edge of reason, an all-seeing eye, religion, faith, destiny, and the responsibilities of leadership and honour in such times. Let's see what danger, trouble, and adventure awaits Captain Riker and his crew of the USS Titan in this Star Trek adventure. Welcome to Trek Central, I'm your host Captain Jack, let's get into it. Before we do warp into this video, if you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media for daily updates on the Star Trek universe. If you're enjoying our deep dives into the Star Trek book universe in extended canon, why not support our videos by becoming a patron? Simply click the link in the video description to get exclusive awards and more. We're also starting a book club on there soon, so come and take part as we explore more novels from the Star Trek universe. Make it so. As always, please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, because if you're talking about Star Trek, we want to hear about it. Okay, engage. Opening the book, you're confronted with a prologue with a flash forward, a sneak preview of what's in store for the crew. It's a hell of a way to open the book, and honestly, given that I found the opening chapters of this book rather slow, it went some ways to keep me interested. We see Jazza, the ship's science officer, awaken on an alien planet in the aftermath of a Titan crashing on an unknown alien world. Surrounded by heavy fire from mysterious enemies, endless danger, likened to his Bajoran upbringing under the horrors of a Cardassian occupation. He's not alone though, accompanied only by a woman called Modan. He's unsure of what's happened to the Titan, only remembering being engulfed in flame and knowing that Troi is in danger. But what just happened to the Titan? Watch on. The Sword of Damocles opens in earnest about 3 months after the events of the last book, Orion's Hounds. It's been a quiet 3 months of that. The ship is still exploring and charting the Gum Nebula, exploring an area of space called the Occultus Ora. It's a dark area of space, nothing to speak of in the way of stars or planets. The Titan is drifting through a void, launching buoys and far away from help, all alone in the night. Naturally, morale has taken a bit of a hit. For a flagship of the Federation's armada, you'd expect something a little more exciting. Jazza, the man destined to be in the situation outlined in the prologue, is haunted by dreams of home. Chief Engineer, Rahavari, has seemingly gone insane, ordering random repairs to fully operational systems, becoming something of a recluse. First Officer Christine Vale, along with Troi, are forging a plan of attack to confront him. Speaking of Troi, her and Captain Riker are in the midst of some marital strife, and First Officer Christine Vale has picked up on it, calling into question the ethics of having such a close relationship within the ship's senior staff. The entire first chapter of the book is a glorified catching up session with the ship's staff. Honestly, the domesticity of the Titan makes the ship feel alive as the crew drift from one book to the next. Into the plot, Jazza, as science officer, is in charge of mapping the Occultus Ora. After months of slipping into a boring routine, they pick up a man-made signal. It's not a system fault, but there has been no sign of life, or indication of intelligent life has wandered out this far. Through some classic Star Trek technobabble, the signal is analysed and found to be a heavily distorted radio signal. It mentions the USS Titan by name, and alludes to a sentient species. While it's not the Titan, someone out there has found something, and they're calling for help. The Titan isn't alone in mapping the further reaches of the Beta Quadrant, with the lunar-class USS Sharon being the nearest vessel. The signal is believed to originate near the Elysian Sendai system, 27 hours away at warp, plenty of time to stay around. Which is why most of the third chapter is spent on the Rahavari situation, caught by Troi dictating from his quarters. ordering borderline essential repairs, all in an effort to cope with deeper psychological issues. It's not a permanent solution, but he's given a pass of sorts, given it seems to be helping the ship more than hindering it. Before long, however, the Titan is hit by a mysterious warp wave with no determinable point of origin, deepening the mystery. It's here that Riker brings Modan, the woman from the prologue, out from a large, nameless crew to research the origin of his signals. The pieces are falling into place, but what happens to Titan to get Jaza and Modan surviving a crash on an alien world? The answer to that might be coming up quick, with Chapter 4 opening with a brief from Troi on the possibility of life on the planet of Orisha. Approaching the system, scans indicate that they're developing warp technology, but for power rather than travel. Its use is responsible for the Titan's warp issues, basically leaving them dead in the water, but radioing would break the Prime Directive. Rather than inch the ship forward over months, they decide to send a smaller shuttle to get closer, risky, but the best option at hand. In true Star Trek fashion though, the party consists of Vale, Troi, the chief engineer, Jaza, and Modan. It's a whole bunch of major characters, which is most of the senior staff. Great plan. The journey starts off easily enough, albeit with the expected warp disruptions. However, approaching the system, the chief engineer spies an eyeball of pure energy between them and Orisha, only visible to his eyes. Scarily, this ball seemingly has a voice, like the Eye of Sauron but on a whole new level, broadcasting into the Ellington and threatening to destroy the shuttle, sending them hurtling into Orisha's surface. This leaves the shuttle a burning chunk, with the crew beamed down to Orisha in hopes of safety. Scarily, all of Deanna Troi's empathic connections to the Titan and Riker are severed as she sees another wave hurtling towards the Titan. Chapter 5 brings in line where the book began, with Modan and Jaza settling into an inhospitable jungle planet with no infrastructure but is little more than a primitive war zone. Crude projectiles, fuel bombs, nothing high level enough to suggest a society that's experimenting with warp technology. Surprisingly, the shuttle's not totally beyond repair, and confirms to the pair that they are in fact on Orisha, but something's wrong. The stars have moved ever so slightly, and they realise they've been sent back in time. The shuttlecraft, Ellington, drifted through a temporal aperture when it was thrown down to the surface of the planet, and either Jaza or Modan were transported out in time. Jaza, his faith left untouched, is determined to get the shuttle up and running, getting him back to the present. For years he's known where he's going to die, a certainty that keeps him going, but fixing the ship's not going to be easy. Before long, he's rocked onto the back by an explosion. Chaos engulfs the planet as ripples and earthquakes abound, and columns of flame and lightning adorn the sky, with the Eye decimating the surface of the planet as it's worshipped as a god. For years, Jaza had a vision of his place of death, a vision that becomes a reality as gems and lights cover the sky, and the shape of one of the prophet's orbs appears in the sky. It's just become true. His certainty that he'll return to the present and save the Titan is gone. With Modan missing in the chaos, her condition unknown after the explosion, the past appears to be their final resting place. However, the present is still home to survivors from the shuttle crash, beaming down before the shuttle's passage. Everyone bar Jaza and Modan slowly meet up and plan their next move. Troi, in particular, is left mourning a perceived loss of the Titan, but is holding out hope given the amount of cosmic fake-outs she's experienced during her time on both the Enterprise D and Enterprise E. However, the sight of a Black and Lunar-class ship remains quickly puts an end to this. The warp core is still working, but the descent has cauterized the crew. It's like a solemn graveyard in comparison to the constantly moving jungle encompassing the rest of the planet. It's a sad moment, the science left unbroken by both Troi and Vale, disrupted only by phaser fire from the chief engineer and Kero, who's been kidnapped by unseen attackers. The kidnapped Starfleet officers are poked and prodded by the local Orishians, more as a point of curiosity than anything else. They're being taken to the Spire, a built-up structure that stands as a spiritual marker. Before long, the others in the landing party arrive, effectively kidnapped within the Spire. It's here they learn how modern Orishian society works. They mostly live underground, hiding from the Eye, which is a god they call Ericon. This god destroys a society every time it opens its eye, sometimes as often as every 100 years. But living and hiding from the Eye, they're able to ensure that their society isn't totally blown up and is able to develop somewhat. Already, we're seeing something sufficiently more advanced technologically than what we see Jaza and Modan were around. So it's evident that the plan to build a society like this is working. No longer warlike, they've been guided by the almost supernatural Oracle, who's built a sort of caste system. There's the dreamers who plan, hunters who fight, weavers who build, and the guardians who protect. It was the Oracle who encouraged the Osiris society to live underground. With all these underground discoveries of the Titan crew, Troi also gets a taste of the Prime Directive fears that Riker was experiencing just days before approaching the Ora. Trying to not reveal too much about where they came from, but also trying to protect themselves. It also seems prudent that the chief engineer was captured, as at the end of chapter 8 he reveals some important information to close off the first half of the book. The wreckage they saw isn't the Titan, it's still a lunar-class ship, but the warp core sounds different, something that an engineer of his caliber would come to recognise. Instead, it's the remains of the USS Titan, a ship that was exploring this same area of space, annihilated by the supposed god. It's not until the start of chapter 9 that the story catches back up to what happened after the Titan was hit by the wave as the Ellington was crashing. Sure enough, Captain Riker's just fine, as is the Titan. Well, it's in a bit of a rough shape. Alive, mostly operational, but certainly not burned to a crisp on an alien planet. Then again, there are 6 more Titan books, so it's not exactly a shocking revelation. Although it does create a nice bit of tension, the Titan believes the Ellington destroyed, which means Riker thinks his wife is dead. The anger he's carrying from this doesn't bode well for the Osirian vessel that approaches Titan, berating the Federation for awakening the god and causing them imminent destruction. He believes ignorance, but they're not buying it. The Osirians cast a net over the Titan, pressing through their shields, leaving them with 2 hours before they're set to be destroyed. It's a brief moment, but a nice catch-up nonetheless. The story then continues to follow the party on Orisha, trying to escape from the Spire. There's a mention of a mysterious veil, a powerful piece of technology that's keeping the planet in check. This is shrouded in mystery by the Osirian Master and Guardians, but escape is fresh on their minds, especially when a new earthquake starts. On their way out, an Orishan confronts the crew, forcing them to confront how their arrival has shaken up the society, calling the Titan a pestilence, condemning the Siren civilization. This person's name is RJ Tak, who is in a struggle for escape, and just for the record, I am definitely not pronouncing that correctly. Now the person does end up being shot by Troi. She's dragged along with the Titan crew in the struggle, with Troi feeling a sort of social responsibility for help. No sooner do they escape to the surface than the Ellington appears in the sky, rescuing the Titan crew. The chief engineer, however, is still down on the planet with his comm badge missing, torn off by the Osirian Master in the struggle to escape the Spire. He becomes untraceable, but he's not the only absent friend of the Ellington, for Modem has arrived to the present without Jaza. She insists Jaza is dead and gone, piercing Troi and Vale's temples with her tentacles. It's time for a telepathic story time about the first major character death in the series, someone who's been with the Titan from day one, Jaza Najem. Modem's story of Jaza is one of a courageous man. He didn't die laying down, staring at the sky, and taking in the destruction around him. He saved Modem from the rubble and succeeded in helping to rebuild the Ellington as a working shuttlecraft. The vision of his death was not so much of a literal one, but it's reinterpreted by him as his death in the main timeline. Instead of returning to the present with Modan, he pledged to spend the rest of his days assisting the Sirens build their society, using his knowledge of what Modan and the Titan will need in the future. That's the last she sees of him, as they share a goodbye kiss as she flies the Ellington through the temple anomaly, and arriving in perfect time to save Troi, Vale and Karoo, with the Sirens in tow. It's not a particularly complex time travel plot, but Thorne's use of it is narratively satisfying. The book feels like it's coming to the final action climax naturally instead of forcing or rushing it. After the vision, an interesting perspective swap and an intimate flashback, neither Vale or Troi take too kind to Jaza being abandoned in the past. Although with the chief engineer still on the planet below, and the planet falling apart, they reserve judgment for a little bit. Again, the chief engineer is down on the planet's surface, trying to decode the mysterious Veil device, but is struggling with the Osirian symbols. Now, of course, he's an engineer, not a linguist, so that's fair. Modan makes her way down to the Veil to help him, as both a linguist and using Jaza's knowledge of Osteric computers. With their help, they're able to decode what the Veil really is, and the Osirians have no idea what kind of power they're playing with. The Veil is part of a network of fold devices, stabilizing the Spire network, unable to fully shut it down lest the Spire would be destroyed. And with the current earthquakes, the way they are, the Spire is actually collapsing. If it wasn't clear, the planet is in danger, imminent danger, with a population of millions caught in the crossfire. The action again cuts away to Captain Riker back aboard the Titan, who is left with just 2 hours before the ship explodes. Juggling 3 story threads isn't easy, and it's a bit of a shame that Riker fades from the story for extended periods, but he's back now and the action is ramping up. A probe launched from the Titan picks up a live broadcast from the now destroyed USS Titan. It's a warning, but all the space fold stuff going on is expanding. which we know to be true because of the distortions mean they've received messages well after it is sent. Some really time-traveling trippy stuff there. With the Titan, only 15 minutes has passed since we last saw them, with Riker pleading with the Osirians to no avail. He goes to launch a big attack strategy, feeling particularly angry and vengeful, given that he believes they murdered his wife. The Osirian ship is invulnerable, out of phase with the rest of the universe. Riker will either force it back to whatever dimension it's straddling, or drag it back into phase and bring the Hellfire. Now a bit of Star Trek technobabble later, and the Osirian vessel is brought back into phase, nullified and with only one life sign detected. Riker and Tuvok board it. What they find isn't what they expected. It's bright, peaceful, well lit, it's basically the perfect opposite of a Borg cube. One remaining life sign, the ship's captain, has just committed suicide in fear of the name Viricon for his failure, that being the god. Carrying fear of the wrath of a cosmic entity, it's a haunting and sobering scene, showing just how much of a rule this godlike terrorist has over this society. Meanwhile, back down on the surface, the Spire's collapse has trapped thousands of the planet's population in a cave-in, with the Ellingtons struggle to beam out as many as they can. Of course, with it being a shuttle, progress is slow. The Orishan guest who accused the Titan of destroying her planet sees the effort they're going to. In the Veil's control room, both the Chief Engineer and Modan have worked to stabilise the network and put a stop to the earthquakes for the time being. They're even trying to implement a timed step down of the Spire network, fighting off the imminent collapse. Meanwhile, the USS Titan, in taking the offensive to the Eye, are unknowingly threatening the planet, with the effects of the initial eruption distorting the planet more and more. Modan departs the Veil, rushing on the way to Titan, with the Chief Engineer staying within the network and keeping guard of it. From her position outside, Deanna Troi sees the return of the Titan, confirming her suspicion that her husband was still out there. Meanwhile, Modan is metabolizing memories and knowledge of Jaza imparted in their farewell, with the memory patterns and engineering knowledge that assisted her return to the present fading. Troi uses her Beta Z powers to absorb them. Modan, Troi, and everyone else on the board of the Ellington shuttle fight for their lives breaking through the Eye, and they are finally returned to the Titan right as the warp core breaches. Good times, right? A rushed Imazadi reunion later, which given the planet destruction at hand, understandable, and Troi's using the knowledge she absorbed to help the Titan compensate for the explosions and flux waves emanating from the destabilized Eye and Spire network. Thanks to the Chief Engineer's actions on the surface, and the Titan compensating, the chaos dissipates in a massive show of lilac, white and powder blue. The Eye of Ericon, this godlike temporal aperture, is finally gone. Orisha is finally stabilized and freed. Basically, happy days. The action's over, the day is won, but Jaza is gone and hundreds of thousands are said to have died in the chaos on the planet. Both Riker and Troi feel as if they've left Osira better than they found it, though, through freeing the population from their cosmic powers. They're also closer than ever with time apart, and feeling they'd lost one another for most of the book. They're sort of ready to go forward as a happier couple. Meanwhile, the spires on the planet are torn down within days, with the population honouring the Titan as the herald of the god. They're still considering themselves children of the god, but have renounced the Eye as sort of a false prophet. An undying devotion to faith, performing the sort of mental gymnastics that faith can demand in the face of contradiction. But at least the people of the planet are now free to develop and build as they see fit, with the freedom to dream and enough of the population to properly begin again. To gain some semblance of closure over Jaza's loss, the Titan crew hold a memorial service for Jaza, immortalised as the Osirian's oracle. They never broke the illusion for the Osirians, but there was really a sweet meditation on love, bravery and commitment. The book's epilogue focuses on Jaza's early days in the planet's past, establishing himself, finding disciplines, trying to meld the society into something that will eventually enable the Titan to help them overthrow the Eye. He never knows for sure if he does succeed, only discovering that the wreckage was the USS Karan and not the Titan, but is steadfast in his commitment as the Oracle. It's a really sweet ending to the book, and the first to not feature a cliffhanger or obvious lead into the next book. What we do have is a tease that the Titan story continues in the crossover event called Star Trek Destiny. It's a trilogy of novels from 2008. Alongside the Titan is the Enterprise Z, and all of the familiar next generation characters you'd expect there. It also introduces a new starship, the USS Aventine, commanded by Captain Every Dax of Deep Space Nine. The next books in the series are very exciting, so stay tuned to see what's so important that brings together so many important players from the Star Trek universe. Okay, so that's book 4 for Star Trek Titan, the Sword of Damocles. If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. Don't forget, you can also use the link below to check out our Patreon. Any support is greatly appreciated. For now, I've been Captain Jack. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends. Goodbye.